Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to reintroduce to you now. Amanda Decker, NP, is a returning guest on our show. Be sure to check out her first appearance on episode 161 of Boundless Body Radio. Amanda Decker, NP, is a Dickson County, Tennessee native and lives on her farm with her family of four. She is a 2005 graduate of Vanderbilt University School of Nursing and has worked in primary care since that time. She became interested in using nutrition as medicine through her own weight and health journey. In 2018, she began to focus her practice on medical weight management. Her passion is helping others to prevent, improve, or reverse chronic health conditions through lifestyle approaches. Amanda has several advanced certifications, including the Certificate of Advanced Education through the Obesity Medicine Society, SCOPE certified through the World Obesity Federation, Certified Metabolic Health Practitioner through the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, and has a Ketogenic Nutrition certification through the American Nutrition Association. In October of 2024, she formed ClearPath Medical, which allows her to continue to see patients and expand her holistic wellness services. You can find Amanda all over social media at Decker Less Carbs. Amanda Decker, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you back to Boundless Body Radio.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It has been so long since we've got to catch up. We've kind of been two ships in the night and seeing each other every now and again in social media. To give you an idea of how long ago it was that we had talked the first time in our first episode, you had to reschedule because you were having a COVID wave at the place you were working at before. So that puts us in a different kind of time frame.
Wow, it really does.
Crazy. That episode, it was a shorter episode and we featured you that one time, but I've actually used clips of that episode and actually went back and re-released that episode even later on because I love the conversation so much. Your interactions with your patients after you had kind of changed your approach to how you're dealing with chronic health conditions was just so utterly inspiring. I used your clip in a big composite episode I made with healthcare workers who had found ketogenic nutrition, and the clip of you talking about your patients and their experience and what your personal experience was working in this field and how your job satisfaction has changed was absolutely wonderful. So it's been a gold mine to host you on the show. I really, really appreciate you and your work.
Oh, that's great to hear.
That's awesome. It has been a while, like I said. So could you kind of remind us how you decided to get into the health space to begin with? And from our first conversation, it really seems like you were a little bit disappointed with the level of care you could really offer people.
Yeah, for sure. Don't know how far you want to go back, but I knew I wanted to be in healthcare from a very, very young age. My mom remembers me saying, yep, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to take care of people. I'm going to save the world. That is what was kind of my motto from a very, very young age. And so that was always the path. High school, college, everything. That was the path that I went to. I was originally headed to medical school and decided that I didn't want to be in school that long because I also wanted to be a mom and a wife and have all these other things in my life. And so I decided to be a nurse practitioner and went that direction because I wanted to be in the clinic with patients. I never desired to be in the hospital setting. It was always one-on-one with patients, helping them individually. And, worked as primary care for, oh goodness, I was writing this up last night, probably the first 12 to 14 years of my career, before I got completely burnout with just the ins and outs of primary care. The only people I helped make better were those with urinary tract infections and sinus infections. Nobody else. I wasn't saving anybody else. Maybe the random person that I caught their heart attack and sent them to the hospital in time, but I didn't feel like I was really making anybody better. And so that's when I went to my own health journey and figured, well, I made myself better. How did I make myself better? How did I see improvements in my weight? How did I see improvements in psoriasis and inflammatory condition that I've had since I was 5? And it was all through nutrition and my lifestyle, my exercise, my sleep pattern, my stress pattern, things of that nature. So I started using that in clients. I was like, oh, wait, this actually works on a bigger scale other than just me. And then I went back and got all the additional certifications that you mentioned. I've actually added another one with the Nutrition Network that I will graduate from next month. It's completed. I've passed. Wow. I will be a certified Nutrition Network practitioner, and the graduation is next month. So got all those certifications to, I guess, put validity with what I was doing, to not just say I'm someone out here just preaching advice without any education behind it, that I really did study and become informed before I started using this with clients. got into weight management, used it on a larger scale. And like you said, I was doing great. I had a different outlook on care. It did reinvigorate my love for medicine, because I was almost to the point of stepping out at one point, because I just couldn't continue doing what I was doing every day, not helping anyone. So when I started seeing people change their lives, it put me on a different career path. And day in and day out for 6 years ish, I don't know, I lose track of time, somewhere around 6, practice mainly in obesity medicine, helping people regain health. And I guess it was about a year ago that I kind of hit that point again where I was starting to feel that burnout again. But it wasn't burnout because I didn't love what I was doing and didn't love the results that I was seeing. I was having amazing results in the clinic. I was seeing patients improve. I had a wait list of over 6 months long to get in to see me under that model. I was productive as far as finances were going for the clinic, but I was working very long hours. And I have a family at home that I greatly love and wanted to see. And then I would come out of an office visit where someone's world was just falling apart with them. And I felt like I gave them all the time that I could give them, but they needed probably 3 times the amount of time that I had. And, I said, I've got to get out of this model of where I have 15 minutes to help someone change their entire life or to recover from some big event that they're recovering from before I move on to the next person, where I'm already an hour behind because I'm just in this numbers model of the insurance game. And so I came out of, I remember the visit very vividly, where this person had just really crying their eyes out, had lost so much, had gotten off track with their health. They were feeling it. And I sat in there with them for 20 to 25 minutes, which put me, 15 minutes behind for the next person. And then I went into another visit, and it was the same thing, where I'm another 15, 20 minutes behind, 3 visits in a row, where my heart was breaking because my clients' hearts was breaking. And I knew I needed to be there with them, because at that moment, they didn't just need me as someone to give them another medicine. They needed someone to hear them and to give them something tangible to walk out the door and look forward to. So at the end of that day, I was kind of crushed. And I text Dr. Ken Berry and I said, Ken, I can't do this like this anymore. Well, Ken said, okay, let's meet. So he and Nisha and I met for lunch. They only live about an hour from where I live here in Dickson, Tennessee. We met for lunch, and he was hearing me. He goes, I hear you, and I've seen this, and you can do this. You can do things differently. Patients will still come to see you. They will come to see you because of who you are and how you practice and the knowledge base that you have. And I was like, yeah, I get it, but we're in like rural of nowhere, middle of nowhere, Tennessee. Who's going to come see me and pay money to come see me and not use their insurance? Because we're talking about the only way to get rid of that model and that hamster wheel is to break free from the insurance model. And he just looked at me and he said, Amanda, quit being chicken shit and get your stuff together. I was like, Ken. So it took me a couple more months to kind of wrap my head around it. And it's like, no, he's right. I'm just continually stuck in this. And insurance companies don't have a better way out. They don't pay you for health coaching. They don't pay you for this long time intervention. When you do bill based on time, you don't get reimbursed as much if you're billing on level of services and seeing more patients. It was just this big mess. And so I formed Clear Path Medical. I went and got my LLC for the company and broke the news to my staff that's been with me for 10 years. Like, ladies, we're doing this. This is the direction that we're going. And so in October, I started seeing some patients on the side. So I was still running my DMA weight and wellness insurance-based practice Monday through Thursday, heavy, busy hours. Started on the side, also running Clear Path Medical, doing a few consults here and there, virtual, online. And then January 1st, I broke completely free from DMA weight and wellness. I'm 100% Clear Path Medical in this model where I do direct primary care, weight management, metabolic health, call it whatever you want. If you got a goal, I want to help you reach it. If you're stuck in a place in your life where you're not happy and it's health related, I want to help you reach it. And I've got even bigger visions and goals from there. I'm applying for some grants to try to help me make a true holistic wellness clinic where I would incorporate mental health services and exercise services all here under one roof so they can really get what I consider to be the 4 pillars of health when I'm thinking about weight loss, which is nutrition, exercise, stress, and sleep all in one place, instead of this disjointed care that we get with the insurance system where you go here for one thing and there for one thing and there for one thing, and you never really get any consistent advice together. So maybe a long answer for what you just asked me, but that kind of brings up to speed of where I am in the evolution of my practice.
That is amazing. It just brings the biggest smile to my face. Thank you, Dr. Kenberry.
I know, right?
It's a very Kenberry thing to say.
It was.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. I don't think I think it's really kind of underlooked and underappreciated how difficult it truly would be to be in that system, that medical system with insurance, before you found metabolic health, to feel like you're really like not helping anybody. Like I got a small taste of that with like personal training and nutrition coaching. You give people advice and tell them to eat the whole grains and they've got to do the cardio workouts and all this stuff. And like people are not doing it, but we could just sit back and kind of take that Jason Fung, the approach that Jason Fung talks about, where it's like blame the victim. Like, oh, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't journal about your feelings, you didn't, run 5 days a week. Like there's always something that you can find. But at the end of the day, like it's such a crappy feeling to go into something knowing that you're going in with the best intentions to help somebody, and at the end of the day, it's just not happening. Like that sucks.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And it leads to provider burnout. And we're seeing providers across the board. You're seeing addiction increase, alcohol, drug addiction, just because it's so much for us to cope with. You're seeing suicide rates go up. We're seeing depression, anxiety rates go up, all in medical providers. I don't have the exact numbers. I could look them up, but I know that every time I look at them, I'm like, oh, dadgum, just keeps going up. And where does it stop? When I was explaining what I was doing, my new practice transition with the client, she was so angry. She was very angry at me. And I was like, I'm sorry. I have to do this. I'm doing this for the clients that are going to be able to follow me. I'm doing this for me and my family. She goes, no, Amanda, I get that. And I get your reasons. And I'm not angry at you. I'm angry because you're my 5th provider in the last 10 years that has either went cash pay or has retired early. Wow. And I spend so much time trying to find a good provider, somebody who listens to me, who cares about me. And then you either retire early or you go cash pay. She felt very abandoned. I was like, I'm sorry, but that kind of tells you something about what happens to good providers in this medical model. Yeah. If we either don't stay in our full until we fully retire, or we're finding a different path, that tells you something about the system we're in.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Definitely pretty bad. I do want to talk about that a little bit more. We're going to park that for a second. I don't want to miss this. We talked briefly about this last time, and it's something you mentioned already. Whenever I don't think it's strange anymore. I think it's pretty common that the skin issues that you had dealt with being related to diet. There's certain times when I'm bringing this up for the first time for somebody that they're like, what are you talking about? Like they have no idea that the foods they're eating can contribute to psoriasis, like you mentioned, rosacea, eczema. Like there's so many different things I've seen greatly improve or completely reverse changing the diet. So tell us a little bit about that condition and what that journey was like for you.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed at the age of 5. And for people that don't know much about psoriasis, it's getting more common, but in the early 80s and 70s, it was not common for someone that young to be diagnosed with that condition. It usually started coming in later in teenagehood, early adulthood is when you start to notice, but I had it starting at age 5. Side note, I was also overweight at the age of 5. So wow. my weight issues and my skin issues kind of coexisted together. So throughout, psoriasis is an inflammatory condition. There is a genetic component. So I still have psoriasis. We can get to that later, but there's a genetic component. So multiple members of my family have it. But in general, it's inflammatory. So I explain it like I do diabetes or anything else that has a genetic component. The genes maybe make you more likely to have it, but there's something else in the environment that is triggering it to manifest itself or come out. And for me, now that I look back, it was definitely foods that helped to manifest that condition. So from 5 until 30, I struggled with psoriasis. It was on 80% of my body, not completely covering it, but I had a plaque somewhere 80% of my body. So for people who don't understand what I'm saying with the plaque, a plaque is it can be round, it can be discoid, circular, but it's a patch and it's thickened skin. It's red and inflamed at the base, and then it builds up this scaly kind of silvery look on the top of it, and it can flake off, peel off, things like that. Sometimes it gets worse in the winter because it's just drier air or you're inside heat and the heat dries it even more. Moisturizers, they can help with comfort. They don't make it go away. The mainstay of treatment for most of my life has been topical steroids. If it gets too bad, it's oral steroids, which now that I know what I know that that kind of worsens the metabolic health, the underlying metabolic health. It may calm down the inflammation of the skin, but the underlying condition is just getting fed with that. We found out in medicine that also drugs that suppress the immune system affect psoriasis. So we're lumping now this in with things like Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus. We're seeing connections on all of those on the inflammatory spectrum. So the genetic component, the inflammatory component is something's triggering the immune system to go haywire, and it's showing up on the skin level. You can with psoriasis also get it in the joints and get psoriatic arthritis. Thankfully, I've not had that. So in my early 30s, no, hang on, I got to go back. I don't even know what year it is. So it was my late 30s. I went on an immunosuppressant. I was low carb ish when I went on an immunosuppressant. I was probably eating a very clean whole foods diet, but still occasionally some wheat, things of that nature. I was probably between 50 and 80 carbs a day on my average intake, and things had improved, but I still had these huge plaques. And so after I had my second child, I went on Stelara, which is an immunosuppressant, and my skin rapidly cleared up within 3 or 4 months. Then COVID hit. I was working in front lines in primary care when COVID hit. We had a mobile trailer where we were seeing active COVID people. They drive in with their cars, we're testing them, we're listening to their lungs, trying to triage to send them to the hospital, or whether it was something we could treat there in the middle of a parking lot. And I had a come to Jesus moment when I was like, okay, this is a deadly disease. It's killing people. I'm on something that's lowering my immune system. I got young kids. I can't stay on this. If I get COVID right now, I'm higher risk. I'm going to end up in the hospital. I'm going to end up with death. And I've come too far with my overall health to die because I don't want some psoriasis on my skin. And then I had another moment. It's like, wait, I know better than this. I can change more. I can do more to lower my inflammation naturally while I'm coming off of this drug. So January of 2020, I stopped. I was due for a dose of Stelara. It was every 3 months. I was due for it. I didn't take that dose. I stopped and I went carnivore. I did carnivore for about 90 days, beef, bacon, butter, and eggs for 30 days, and then added some other meats in for 90 days. And then I slowly added in vegetables, starting with the lower inflammatory ones to test out and see what affected me. Anytime I felt the inkling of inflammation, and for me with psoriasis, it would be a tingling at the sites where my biggest plaques were, which were elbows, knees, and a spot on my leg, and then in my scalp. So if I felt an inkling and itching, anything, I removed that food, kept it gone. I was successful at keeping absolutely zero plaques on my body for about 2 years, even throughout COVID. Was maintaining very well on a very clean, low carb diet, absolutely no wheat, no sugar in my diet whatsoever, except for a little berries here and there. And I found nightshade vegetables. I could do touches of them, but I couldn't do them back-to-back days because they would flare up the psoriasis. Had a big stressor hit about 2 years into COVID, and I got a little bitty patch right at the hairline, little bitty. So we're talking less than 1% of my body, whereas something used to be 80% of my body. I still have that one little bitty patch, probably because I keep bringing stressors into my life. Keep adding more certifications and more clinic changes and different things like that. Keep adding stuff on. But I'll take it, that little bitty patch. And if it starts to get bigger, guess what? I flip back and go back carnivore for a little bit, get my inflammation down, slowly add things back to I know where a level was good, and work on my stress levels even more through things like deep breathing and exercise, and make sure I get quality sleep and going outside and spending time outside and with my family. And when I do those things, I keep it under a much, much better control. So I'm in my mid 40s now. To think of something that I've dealt with for almost 40 years of my life that has a huge nutritional component. It blows my mind still. And when I tell patients, it blows their minds. I'm like, no, seriously, I'm telling you, it was me. I had this. I'm not telling you some other patient or just anecdotal thing. It is an anecdotal thing, but it's my anecdote that I'm telling you that I've experienced firsthand.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. I was going to ask you personally, like what your diet has kind of evolved with. So it sounds like it's very largely carnivore with other things kind of here and there, and you do okay with that, generally speaking.
Yeah, I kind of cycle back and forth. So definitely if I'm in an inflammatory state or I can feel things creeping up, I will go carnivore during that time. My day in and day out is, I guess, what people would call ketovore. It's less than 20 grams of carbs, but I will occasionally go up higher. Like during Thanksgiving, Christmas time, all right, if I got upwards of 30, 40 carbs a day, it's not a huge deal. If I wanted an occasional low carb treat with allulose as my sweetener, okay, not a huge deal. I'm going to do that. But my day in and day out is generally under 20 grams of carbs.
Yeah, that's amazing. So from some of your pictures on Instagram, that you had some desserts that you were kind of posting around Christmas time. It's hard to believe that you could still stay below 40 grams of carbohydrate, and that's still extremely low. Like we're
Yeah,
talking, most people out there are like 300, 400 grams pretty easily
exactly.
of carbohydrate. So staying under 40 is
Yeah.
fantastic. And yeah, it's cool to consider, it's World Carnivore Month now in January, and working with people doing carnivore diet. It's like, yes, most people are here because they want to lose weight, but there's so many other things that diet can really help as far as like healing goes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I really appreciate that as far as that story. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Those treats, like that cheesecake, you probably saw the cheesecake that I
It
posted.
looks so good.
Oh man, it was so good. But the cake itself is very low carb. It's cream cheese and eggs and sour cream are the main ingredients in that. And so the crust has got a little bit of it's coconut flour. I may or may not eat the crust that time, and I may throw a little squirt of whipped cream on it. So, you can keep it low. And if I balance it with the rest of my day where I have bacon and eggs for breakfast and a steak for dinner.
Lovely. Sounds like a great day.
Yeah, no, right?
That sounds like a great day. I love it. Would you consider yourself more of a moderator? Like, can you have a piece of even like that very low carbohydrate, like cheesecake, and you could have a piece and eat it, and that will like kind of hit the spot, and you can kind of walk away?
Mhm. So I cannot moderate real sugar. So I will not go back to eating real sugar, real desserts. You're not going to see me in Cheesecake Factory having 3 bites of something because absolutely not. It will trigger that little addiction center of my brain, the hedonic center of the brain, and off here Amanda will go on her diet. And I learned that through my years of yo-yo dieting and even the first several years of going low carb and then having a treat because it's birthday or Christmas or whatever, and then spending months getting back on the wagon and pulling myself together. Now, with low carb alternatives, I find that over time, I can have those every once in a while. In the beginning, they were tricky too because I could overeat those just as easy as I could overeat the regular brownies or the whatnot. But now, after years, and also I found, I don't know if you have noticed this either or know other people have said anything, allulose treats me way different than a lot of the other sweeteners. For whatever reason, it's not triggering that hedonic center in my brain as much as, say, stevia even did, even though that's still a natural product.
That is very interesting. We've done a few episodes specifically about allulose, talking with Dr. Richard Johnson and a few other people from the company who are making allulose products. It sounds very, very interesting for sure. We've heard the other side of it where for some people it does kind of trigger a bit of those cravings. And so
Mhm.
I think the important thing here is just understand yourself and understand what's going to work for you. The big thing for me is like what's going to trigger the cravings, right? Like if I have some fruit in the summer, like the fruit's not the problem, but like 20, 30 minutes later, I'm really hungry and I don't want fruit anymore. I want candy bars. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's really important to kind of know what your limit is and know that can change. It's cool that like in the beginning, knowing that some of those allulose products or low carbohydrate products would have been something you would have overconsumed, but
Yeah.
over time, you've been able to heal yourself to the point that you can have them every now and again. It's not that big of a deal. I love that.
Absolutely. And it may be that also at this point in my journey, protein is my main and first foremost focused. So when I was earlier in my low carb journey, I had more low carb vegetables, and now I don't know, I have them on occasion, but it's not necessarily a mainstay in my diet. I'm predominantly more meat based. So I'm feeling more full and satiated. And it is harder to even overeat those treats when your belly's full of a big old ribeye.
Yeah, so true. So true. And it's interesting too, like anybody I've ever seen go, a stricter version of carnivore, like obviously not a lot of people stay on a strict version of carnivore, nor do they need to. But it's so funny how rare vegetables are the thing that some people go back to. Like of anything, maybe rice, maybe fruit, maybe honey, maybe any of these other things, or maybe they'll have dessert every now and again. But like when vegetables kind of go out, it's like I don't really want to get many of those back in.
Oh no, I kind of like vegetables.
Sounds like it. It sounds like we won't bash vegetables. It's okay. We won't bash
Maybe,
vegetables.
I
It's
mean,
fine.
I like a good salad on occasion. I don't know. It just mainly in the summertime. I just need something light,
Yeah, there you go. Well, you're one of the minority, but that's great. It's good that you found something that totally works.
Maybe seasonal. I do try to eat them seasonally. I'm not
There you
eating
go.
squash in the middle of November. I'm eating them in June when they're coming out. So
Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call. Well, the good news is I'm not eating any of the lettuce that would make your salad, so there's plenty left over for you. So that's great.
oh, great.
I think most listeners will understand that the medical system is tough. It's pretty tricky. It's just not the best. It's kind of a sick care system and standard practice. People are probably familiar. They go to the doctor, they see them for 10, 15 minutes. They can write a prescription. That's basically about it. That's how their pay works. That's how they're incentivized. That's just what it is. And it sucks, but again, it is what it is.
That's what it is.
There's a lot of low carb practitioners out there that do currently what you did for a long time. And eventually, like you said, great job satisfaction. It just burned you out because it's not really sustainable. But for the people that are practicing, that are still in the system and want to continue practicing, but they want to offer, low carb information. How were you able to make that successful? Like what things were you doing that helped you do it for as long as you could?
So it's a tricky one. I tried day in and day out with clinics. So like when people would come for their first weight loss visit, I tried to be smart about how I delivered the information. So some of it was they would watch a video of me explaining macronutrients, explaining metabolism, explaining kind of the process of weight loss, that kind of thing, before I would see them in the clinic. So they would have me in front of a video, and then we would move here into the clinic where it was more physical exam, and they already had a base of knowledge for us to start that conversation with. And then I would give them more information to take home. Part that made me very successful for 6 years, though, was my staff. They were as much educators and are as much educators and support as I was. And that would take some of the burden off of me. So I guess it was about 4 years ago. I'd had to go back and look, but I had my medical assistant trained as a certified health coach. And so she was able to tag team with me on visits so I could focus a little bit more on, the health aspects and be prescribing medications if we needed to. And, what else do we need to look into lab work? And she could come along and do more of the education type processes. My nurse, who's been a nurse for as long as I've been a nurse practitioner, has worked with me for 10 years. She's the LPN. She's reversed a lot of health conditions with herself, was a chronic Weight Watchers person who successfully failed it multiple times, and then got on the Amanda plan, the low carb plan, and has successfully kept off about 40 to 50 pounds on herself. But when she's in the room, she's giving advice. She's taking their blood pressure and she's asking about what they're eating and what have they been craving lately, and offering different suggestions and how's it working with your family. And I feel like if I had not had that team environment, tag teaming in many different areas, and also the patients learning outside of my physical time with them in the exam room, it would have been impossible to continue. And then I also found social media to be helpful. I know that sounds a little strange, or maybe it doesn't anymore, but doing a YouTube live or Facebook live once a week, the patients love it. They felt connected in between. Having a private Facebook group where we could go in and post encouragement and things like that, the patients love it. And those type of interactions actually take pressure off of the clinic interaction. I don't know. That helps. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes. No, I think that's amazing. Again, for somebody who's wanting to get that kind of information out there, but they're constrained by those limitations, I think that will be really helpful and practical advice on how to do it. I think just, duplicating yourself in the form of a video is a really smart and very resourceful thing to do. It's like, you have to explain this to everybody. Why not just create it one time? Everybody can watch it. Hopefully they're watching it and taking it in, so that by the time they see you with a limited amount of time, they have a lot of their questions answered already and can advance to like what's going to be more personalized for them. So I think that's helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's contrast that. Obviously, you were doing amazing work. Again, it gave you that satisfaction. Compare what that was like to what you're doing now currently. How much better is it?
Well, what I'm doing now, so in my previous insurance-based model, I did get like kind of a string of patients every once in a while who would come in and they're like, I just want meds. I don't want any of your nutrition advice. I just want to lose weight. Just give me a drug. And if you can't give me a drug, I'm out of here. I don't have that as much in this practice. When people are coming and putting money forward and knowing upfront where I stand, I don't have to kind of convince them to do nutrition. So that is a little helpful. I'm also more in control of my schedule, which means that I can kind of block people and then block me a few minutes afterwards to make sure I do my charting so that I'm done. Last week was our first very full week of seeing patients in office with my full staff on board and not just me picking up and seeing on my own. My daughter, when I came home, she's like, wait, Mama, it's only 5:15. Why are you home? I'm like, because Mama's done for the day. What do you want to go do now? She's like, what do you mean you're done for the day? You're usually not home for another 2 hours. Like, I know, but I'm home, so let's go do something. I guess the difference is that work-life balance for me. The difference is too, when I'm in the clinic, I don't have to feel like when I'm sitting in front of someone that I have to rush out the door and worry about the person that's behind them, because I have that time built in, and it's just easier now. My model, I do things a little different. So a lot of people have heard of like the direct primary care or understand the package deal where you buy this package and you get so many visits or you get so much time. And I have that. And the advantage that has for your healthcare provider is their time is covered. So I can take this patient volume of, I've seen probably around 2,500 to 3,000 unique patients a year. So that was my patient panel of how many people I cover. Under this new model, you pay this fee, and I reduce it down to about 300 patients per year that I'm responsible for. So I can know those patients inside and out. I walk in, I know your name, I know your meds, and we're not having to rehash a lot of things. It buys me the time. If they just want a phone call as opposed to coming into the clinic to have a quick conversation about something, that time is covered. I'm covered. It also reduces my overhead. So like by cutting insurance out of it and going cash pay, my overhead's reduced by 50%. So that's how I can see less people, spend more time with each person, really dig into their issues, and at the end of the day, go home to my family.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds absolutely wonderful. What is the cost difference to the patient? I think that you must get pushback as far as like, I don't want to be paying cash if I can get insurance somewhere else. Like, what do you tell people as far as like the cost associated for the patient?
Yeah. Part of my little smart Heine side of myself wants to say you get what you pay for sometimes, but I don't. I don't, but
not
that's
wrong.
the truth. If you're paying for your insurance, you're going to get the insurance model. That is what it is. If you want to pay to invest more time into your health, then guess what? You're probably going to have a different outcome from your provider and yourself. So I try to phrase it as, this is an investment, because it is. You're investing in you and making sure you stay healthy, not just right now in this minute, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatnot. You still can use your insurance in this model. A lot of insurances have out-of-network benefits. So I will give them the information to bill their insurance for out-of-network benefits. And so if they get, say, 50% of their money back, well, they get 50% back. Medications, like if they get prescribed, say they're on blood pressure medicine, that still goes to the pharmacy. That's outside of me. It's just my office visits that's different. If I have to order a CAT scan, they can still use their insurance for the CAT scan. If I do blood work, we have self-pay options and we have insurance pay options. You can use either one there. So it's just my services that are contracted differently. It gets you more quality for what you're putting in, and usually we'll see that come back out. The other thing that we're seeing as a trend in insurance is high deductibles. Like my personal deductible is around $7,500. I use it as a catastrophic thing. I intentionally purchased that way because no one in my family's got chronic issues. They're young. I don't know if my kid gets strep throat. I'm fortunate enough I can treat her strep throat. It's not a big deal for me. So I need insurance in case there's a car accident or somebody needs an emergency appendectomy kind of thing. That's what it's for. But there's more and more plans that way. We're moving kind of, and you may have seen this trend, we're moving back kind of like insurance was in the early 80s, where we're responsible for our preventative care and insurance is responsible for catastrophic type care. We're just seeing more of those plans. So say you come in and your package with me costs $2,000 for the year and you've got a $7,000 deductible. You're never going to hit that deductible. You're going to probably save money by coming to me and just paying that, because when you come in, if you need a urinalysis or if you need an antibiotic shot for that UTI that we just did the urinalysis, it's covered. If it's inside of my walls, it's covered. There's no extra fees tacking on for here. And suppose you go to a walk-in clinic for that same UTI, then you're going to get charged for the office visit, charged for the urinalysis, charged for the injection. It's just extra fees, and that's how they have to do it to make their money back. And under this model, it doesn't. If it happens in my four walls, it's covered, and this is the amount that you're going to cover. And I even on my off days will check in on messages. Hey, if there's a way I can keep you from going to urgent care for something, or if you have a random question about a supplement, it doesn't take me that long to shoot you a message and handle what we need to handle. So it's just a different style of care that gets you better quality, and for a lot of people is money saving, but you still can use your insurance.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for going into that level of detail. I really appreciate that. I think people think that it's going to be more expensive. They hear cash pay. They're going to be paying all this money. So I have to say, it was like probably 2023. I went out to the healthcare.gov, whatever web. My wife and I running our own business. We don't have health insurance. It's really pretty uncomfortable, but we don't. And you're right. Like maybe I'm biased because we're metabolically healthy. We don't need care all the time. I will need to go to the hospital if I get clobbered by a car when I'm riding my bike or something. You know what I mean? Something catastrophic, like you mentioned. And the cheapest plan that I could find that we qualified for was it was high deductible. I want to say it was $650 or $700 a month, and then it was like a $10,000 or $12,000 deductible. So we would be out of pocket $18,000 every single year before this insurance hardly did anything. We're never going to hit that. And so we use Crowd Health that we pay into. I'm not sure if you've heard of that company. They're out of Austin. They help negotiate cash pay services. They get that down, and then it's crowd supported. So every month I contribute to somebody else's bills. They can contribute to mine if I ever need them. That's about $120 a month is the maximum you ever pay. And it's like my experience paying cash has been so much better and has saved so much money. I even think back for the big company that I used to work for, where it was like subsidized healthcare that most people have. You still pay for that. And it was hundreds of dollars out of my paycheck that I would lose and think, oh, wow, I'm getting these amazing benefits. Well, not if you're not using them. You could take that same money, put it in a savings account. It benefits the doctors to take cash. It benefits the system. It benefits you. People really need to reframe how they think about that.
Absolutely. And even for people with insurance, like I offer a cash pay lab. Well, hemoglobin A1C. So the hemoglobin A1C is a test that tells you your average blood sugar over 3 months. When I was with an insurance-based model and we bill that out, it starts at $56 for that test. That's because they have to bill the insurance, they go back and forth, and they have to collect. And then if you don't collect, then you have to bill people after you. I mean, there's just this whole amount of expense to it. You go through the cash pay lab that I'm working with right now, it's $9. It's like, just pay the $9. That's so much better, because say you have one of those high deductible plans, you get that $56, you are going to get an insurance discount, but it's not going to be discounted to $9. So you were just better off just forgoing your insurance and going the other direction.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, websites like Dave Feldman's Own Your Labs. You look at the prices of all these blood tests. It's like, this is nothing to get some of these things done, and it's a great service. So yeah, absolutely. I love that. I wish more people would think critically about the money they're putting into the system. And yeah, let's talk about your new practice and those other pillars that you mentioned. How are you working with people on things like exercise and sleep, and stress reduction, things like that, as well as nutrition?
Yeah, so nutrition is my mainstay because that's where most of my education certifications are coming from. When it comes to exercise, right now my patients are mainly getting just education that I've given myself. So I use Dr. Ben Bakikio's 15 Minutes to Fitness all the time. It's a great intro, getting people in there. And sometimes we even have to start before that. If you're 400 pounds, jumping right to that is going to be quite difficult. So we're going to talk about maybe just increasing your step goal, or doing some chair exercises with arm lifts and leg lifts and things like that, and build from there and simplify. I have a couple of personal trainers here in my general area that I refer to. So when people are ready for that next level that I can't provide them, then I will refer out to them. My ultimate goal is to have that in-house so that every person who consults can have a one-on-one personal training session, so they can feel comfortable exercising, comfortable going to a gym, or comfortable even exercising in their own home, not worrying about injury as much. I mean, we know injuries can happen, things, but you got to feel comfortable to start that part. So I offer what I can inside of here, making it a priority, letting patients set goals, meeting them where they are. On the stress side of things, because that's a big one for me, I use my own examples. I do a lot of recommended deep breathing. We had at my previous practice some videos that were recorded, and I've got to get them re-recorded, teaching about things like box breathing and deep breathing and some meditation, different listening things that you can do as you fall asleep. I've been recommending, there's a great little device called the Relaxator. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, that when you're breathing in and out through it, it controls your rate of breathing and how fast and how slow you can breathe through. So it forces you to breathe at a certain rate. And it's got some good evidence with helping to lower cortisol levels, which in turn help with hunger levels when you get the cortisol better under control. So little devices and things like that. But more, it's about life satisfaction and connecting with other people. Forming community groups is something we're doing in the new practice that I could not do in the first practice because there was no way to get it covered or paid for. So it was just going to be out of the kindness of mine and the staff's heart. But now we have in-person and online community groups for our clients so they can connect with other people, learn from each other. And that connectiveness in and of itself helps to lower stress. That we were just meant to do life together. We weren't meant to be these little islands in different places. And so that is part of it. Sleep is kind of my last pillar that I talk about. Sometimes addressing that is getting a sleep study. Do we have sleep apnea that needs to be addressed until you can lose weight so that it makes it easier for you to lose weight? Is it more about sleep hygiene that we need to think about? Unplugging from these electronic devices and doing something else before bed. It may be actually your exercise is helping your sleep. Could be blue light blocking glasses. It's just different things that we've picked up along the way to address each one of those pillars. And if we get to a point where our knowledge is maxed out, we're going to refer to another provider just to kind of help.
That's amazing. Yeah, but if you're covering those bases, that's 80-90% of everything right there. That's so important. And yeah, I'm kind of with you with like the nutrition, like it's where I'm more, kind of where my knowledge base is. But I also strongly believe that if you pull that lever, all the other levers are easier to pull. Everybody's a little different. And some people start out with exercise or improve sleep. But I find more commonly, if you get the nutrition right, everything else will pretty much fall in place. People will want to exercise or, want to go on walks and things like that on their own. You don't need to kind of force that as much if the nutrition piece is right, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I don't know if you saw, I guess it was last week, I did, so for the Nutrition Network certification, I did a case study. And it was on a postmenopausal lady who came in for nutritional advice and wanted to lose weight, but she also had high blood pressure and had rheumatoid arthritis, extremely high inflammatory rates. Like, Casey, I've never seen inflammatory rates as high as this one. Her CK, which is just an inflammatory marker, was 2,761 or 62. It's supposed to be like less than 100, little bitty numbers. And she's way out here. Her rheumatologist said, you're not going to be able to walk much longer if this continues. Something's got to give or you're going to be in a wheelchair. And so she walked in my door and like, holy moly, I hope we can help this. But she went on my plan. She went very low carb, very clean, no keto products. We're not doing keto bread because with your inflammation, I need you off of wheat for sure, need you off of sugar. Within 4 months, her CK was normal and she self-initiated exercise at her work. There was a gym that she could go walk around, and she had never in any of her previous plans been able to self-initiate movement because she hurt so much. So even if she went on like a low fat diet or a calorie restricted diet, she wasn't able to self-initiate that. And through this one, she was, before I even got to address it with her, she did it on her own.
That's amazing. Of course, my favorite part of talking about you is learning all your amazing stories. Last time you were on, we learned about Bruce. I'm hoping you have some continued good news for us as far as Bruce. I will never forget, Amanda, you saying Bruce can breathe. I think exactly like that intonation totally stuck with me. Can you give us any updates on some of your patients you're still seeing, including Bruce?
Yeah, so Bruce is still alive and kicking, still doing well. He's had some struggles over the last couple of years because I don't know if you remember, but he had several 100 pounds to lose. And with me, I think he was down like 100 at maybe the time that I saw you. I think he may be down now to closer to 150. He doesn't have a lot of grand home support, which makes lifelong change very difficult. So there's been some on and off the wagon. He had an episode where he fell and broke his shoulder, and that set him backwards because he was off at home, and those stressful emotions, those stressful times are hard, set him backwards. But he did pull himself after everything got healed. He was back and working on things. I think I saw him last couple months ago. Still on very minimal fluid pills, still moving, still very, very grateful for where he's at in his journey. So yeah, he's doing good with ups and downs, which is just part of it.
Yep.
This is life. It's not all going to be roses and, I don't know, kitty cats or something.
Yep. Totally. And that's another thing I really love about your approach. You are in an area of the world that is not the most economically developed area of the world. It's not like money is just growing on trees around there, but you're able to help people with compliance, and you're able to help make things approachable. What has been your experience as far as that goes?
So compliance, you just have, in my experience, I have to help people think past what they know or unlearn what they know, because how they eat or how we eat as humans has kind of been ingrained in us from a young age. This is how my mom cooked, this is how I cook, or maybe they didn't cook, maybe they lived off of frozen pizzas or something of that nature, and they think healthy food is too expensive for them to obtain. And so you have to kind of meet them where they are and say, yes, healthy food, it can be expensive, but your unhealthy food is being very expensive on multiple avenues right now because of your health and where it is leading you to. So let's find some healthier alternative and ways to do that. And then educate about the fact that hunger is going to be under control more once we clean the diet up, and you're going to be eating less. And most people can't even fathom eating less or skipping a meal. And it happens more naturally than anything after we get them eating whole foods and high enough protein and good healthy fats and things like that. So it's really getting that buy-in and helping them let go of what they've always known to know that there's a different way, and the different way can be good.
Yeah,
You
I love
give
that.
them resources, recipes and ideas and things like that. That's how it makes it everyday feasible for them if they know there's an alternative and figure it out.
That actually reminds me, I believe you were on, was it Phil's podcast, where you were talking about even within your own family, where getting your family on board was not the easiest in the beginning, but I thought it was fantastic I think you had your child go to like diet doctor or showed them diet doctor to pick out recipes. Is that right?
Yeah, that was, so my son, who's now 15, I think he was like 8 at the time, was very much resistant to giving up any of the foods that we wanted out of our house. I was like, okay. So we sat him down in front of diet doctor and said, pick me out some recipes, find something that you want to do and then help mommy make it. So he went and picked him out. His first recipe was chicken cordon bleu from diet doctor. Is like a casserole, wasn't necessarily the. So we sat down, we made it, and that boy ate every bit on that plate and asked for more. And even now, I mean, at 15, he's a little bit harder. I will say the teenagehood has been a little bit of a challenge, parenting, but he'll still try anything and everything that I make. He may just, go behind my back and eat other things that I don't want him to, but he's still trying.
That's great. I think it's a brilliant idea, way to empower a child, with just some simple things. When we were running weight loss contests at the gym that I was at, I was discovering low carbohydrate. We were giving people the standard meal plans that were failing all the time. I used diet doctor recipes and threw a bunch of my people and said, I don't care how much of this you eat. Look at these recipes, make things that look like this, or just stick with these simple ingredients. And people did amazing. We got recognized all the time for having winners in our cohort, and they were just doing those recipes. I'm so grateful that Diet Doctor actually went back and reverted to being now, again, a low carb resource after a few years of not exactly following that. I'm glad they're back.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It was very confusing for patients, to refer there. They were like, I don't know what to think. Okay.
Yeah. I know. Same. I was like, I supported them. I paid for their membership for so many years, and it became something that I couldn't give to my people anymore, and I couldn't support that. So I'm glad that it's back, and it is a really great resource. That's fantastic. Yeah, awesome. I love the way that you work with your people in a really pragmatic way and help give them hope. You've also, in the last few years since we talked, started doing events. Can you tell us about the events you guys have started?
Yeah. So, man, when was our first podcast? When did we record episode one?
It was like early 2021. It's been a minute. Early to
Okay.
mid 2021.
All right. So I have done 3 low carb events. So I think it may have been right after the year that we did our recording was maybe my first year that was there. I was looking for just ways to get knowledge out to greater people because I realized here in the clinic I could only reach one person at a time. And yes, they are going to reach people and move out, but I wanted to reach a larger group. So I secured the gym auditorium of my husband's high school that he teaches at. And I sold tickets for like $10 each because I just need to cover the cost of being there. And I had 178 people show up.
Awesome.
And yes, the berries were there. They helped me. I had a diabetes specialist there talking, and I was like, well, this kind of went over quite well. So let's try this again. So I moved it to Montgomery Bell State Park, which is a beautiful state park here in Dickson, Tennessee. They have a conference center, and I've had it there the last 2 years. It's called Low Carb for Better Health. And we've sold out the last 2 years at over 300 people at these events. I've got people coming in from places I've never heard of. Like why are you in Dickson, Tennessee from somewhere in Canada? I don't know. It blows my mind that people want, but it's about that connection thing. Everybody wants to connect. We want to feel involved. We want to feel normal in what we're feeling and what we're doing. And these events definitely help that. But what I get from people in these last 2 events is they want even more. They want more out of the event. So this year I'm mixing it up. I'm still going to Montgomery Bell State Park, but I'm making it a 2-day event, and we're incorporating exercise. So I've got someone coming in and doing like a yoga class on a Friday morning. Mark Cucazella and Keto 50 are going to do a guided hike through the park. So it's a beautiful park. Let's take advantage of that, and enrollees can go in and do those. And then we've got 9 different speakers, and I haven't announced them yet, so I'm not going to put them out. People don't have to watch my social medias for those. But it'll be out later this month for sure, in January or February, whenever I get around to it. We have, a few vendors that are there, but it's mainly time that we sit and we eat together and you hear talks and you have time for open questions and answers and connection in the middle of a beautiful park where you can kick back and relax and get some much needed rejuvenation all at the same time. So it's turned into a wonderful event. It's a beast to put on, trying to organize everything, 9 different speakers coming from 9 different people, states, and then the goodie bags, and then make sure I credit everybody, but I love every minute of it and want to change it. It's at that, maybe I should become an event planner as a,
maybe maybe you just need one more thing to do. Why not?
But I mean, sure. Hey, if I can sell this one out. Oh, and I started another event. Maybe I am an event planner already. So I do 2 events actually. This one though, it's more spiritual based. So last year I started Nourished, which is a women's conference here in Tennessee. And I'm in the Bible Belt. I am a Christian woman. So it is a Christian base that's connecting mind, body, and soul through the Word of God, and helping to nourish them and to say, hey, God really does care how we treat our bodies and how we treat our family and how we treat our emotions. I mean, He cares about all of that. And so we need to minister to the full body and not just, reading the Bible every day is great. You should do that. But that's not where it ends. There's more. And your health matters. And when you don't take care of your health, it enslaves you to your health. So you can't fulfill your purpose, whether it's the purpose that God gave for you or another purpose that you found. But when you don't pay attention to it, you're enslaved and breaking free from that. So that one's coming up in March of this year. March 8th is my second one of that one.
Wow. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, you are an event planner. Congratulations. Both events sound simply lovely. It sounds amazing. And I've made the argument several times that it is a sacrifice to get to some of these places. You typically have to travel. You normally have to pay. You've got to stay somewhere. If you've got kids or pets or whatever, like you've got to deal with all of that. With me, I'm stepping out of my normal day-to-day personal training clients and nutrition coaching clients. So I miss all of that. So not only am I paying, I'm losing money on the back end. And I tell everybody, you will not miss a dollar. You will not miss $1 or any amount of sacrifice you went to be there, to be in a room with all these people, to not feel like you're the weirdo like you do at home. You're with other people that have common values. Everybody is on this super high energy plane because everybody's ketogenic and they're so kind and friendly. And you can meet strangers and you can meet Dr. Ken Berry and you can meet Amanda Decker. Like, you get to rub elbows with all these people. Such a big deal. So fancy. Like, it's awesome. It's amazing. You will not miss any of the sacrifice to get to one of these conferences.
100%. That's why I'm going back to Low Carb USA's Boca event this year, just because I need to connect with other healthcare professionals that are doing things that I'm doing, because otherwise everyone around me is doing it differently. And I feel weird and like I'm doing something wrong. So connect with them.
I know. I just interviewed Doug Reynolds about that, and he's got his new book coming out. And it's tough for me where I am to get to the East Coast, but I'm going to have those few days where I open up my social media. I see all of my favorite people, all you guys hanging out in Florida, and I'm just like kicking myself, like, why didn't I do that? I could have gone this year. I should have gone.
Yes. Well, hey, you're welcome to come to Tennessee in September. There's a great Low Carb for Better Health that I think you would love.
Yeah, that, like I said, that sounds simply lovely. The park sounds amazing. And yeah, just like everything else you do such a good job getting this message out in a way that's very practical, that people can follow, and you work with people and provide hope and help and all these amazing things. And it's required you to step out of, convention and open things. And that takes a lot of courage, and it's not that easy to do. And, you're taking that step into the dark, and you don't know how the path is going to unfold until you're on it. And so I love your story. I love the work that you do. I'm so glad we got to reconnect. I knew we'd have a ton to talk about today. And yeah, again, just to be able to provide hope for people out there is just absolutely wonderful. Amanda, thank you for your time. Thank you for taking time to be on our show. Where would you like people to go to find you and connect with you and your work?
Yeah, so you can find me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. All of it is Decker Less Carbs. So my last name, Less in Carbs. You can check out our clinic website at clearpathmedical.net. It's a great one. If you want to learn about the low carb conference that's coming up, it has a website. It is lc4bh.com. That will be, this year's will be up and going here within a week or two, but that was lc4bh.com for low carb, and then clearpathmedical.net to reach us at the clinic. We're licensed in 21 states. So I would love to connect with anybody who wants to improve their health.
That's amazing. Awesome. We will be sure to link to all of that in the notes. Let's make sure it's not, another 3 or 4 years next time we get together and chat and catch up. Again, I want to hear your practices going and how you're helping people out there. But for now, Amanda, thank you again so very much for all the work that you do and for having the courage to create your own way and provide hope for people. It's really inspiring. And yeah, thank you so very much for taking time out of your very busy life, saving the world and planning events to come on our show today. We really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Casey. I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.